some print failures are not always as they seem. And then there are some times where your Revo Obxidian gets broken in half because it came unscrewed. All this and more, PrintFix Friday, episode 97. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here and you're struggling with some print failures, don't worry, we've got you covered here, but make sure to leave a like and get subscribed. If you do want to get some help, we are accepting fan submissions, and you can do so by emailing me directly, youtube@3dmusketeers.com, or tagging us on all the social medias and using the hashtag PrintFix. We monitor it, so it's just something that we look for to get more content for this show. We have some interesting fails, and there's some commonality here regarding steps per millimeter. If you guys would like to see a video on that, let me know in those comments. We'll add it to our queue, because I do like doing some of these intro videos, and it sounds like steps per millimeter is one that is coming up a lot more often, or I'm just for somehow finding the same style of fails over and over. But without further ado, let's hear from today's sponsor, us. 3D Musketeers. No sponsor this week, but if you do like the effort and the content that we are doing here on the channel, you can join Patreon, PayPal, or YouTube channel members for as little as $1 a month to be able to support the efforts that we do here. But we recommend the $10 tier and higher because it gets you access into our private Discord server where we have active hangouts multiple times a week. We're either editing videos, hanging out, working on crazy projects, doing what we can to help out the overall community. We'd love to have you join. And if you're a little tight on the cash or don't want to support financially, hey, a like and subscribe doesn't cost you a dime. It goes a long way to helping these videos. I would love to know more what you guys would like to see the future of PrintFix Friday. I can keep doing videos like this until the cows come home, but we are eventually going to start getting the same type of fails over and over, and I want to make sure that the content still stays fresh and interesting. So if you have any ideas, let me know, because we are coming up on 100 episodes, and then 104 being 2 years doing this. I still like it, but I want to make sure that we're doing content that you all will also enjoy while I'm enjoying it too. Let me know. And hey, keep an eye out, because there's some awesome merch coming out soon. Got to get some samples sent out. So if you know anybody that does do merch printing, and preferably ones that do like drop shipping where I can send them the orders and then they'll do all the fulfillment, I would love to get some recommendations. So feel free to email those to me, youtube@3dmusketeers.com. Anyways, let's get back into those fails. Walls don't connect very well. So I've had this issue before where I tried to fix it using the Q&A solution where I increased the flow of my printer. So I went from 100 to 110% and seemingly nothing changed. I also checked if it maybe was printing for a 0.5 nozzle, but it wasn't. What other things can I do? This is gray PLA at 200C and the bed is at 50C. I want to see more here because they forgot to mention that that is the actual top of the part, not the bottom. So that was the thing I wanted to know, because if it was the bottom, it's a Z offset issue. They apparently got it working perfectly. And this was the thing I was going to mention. E-steps. The printer apparently forgot the E-steps that it was given a few years ago, and only recently after they tried using it again, it reverted back to factory default. They don't know why, probably when they turned it off and they were doing something. That is a great thing to check. If all of a sudden your prints don't look great anymore, chances are it's gonna be something to do with your steps per millimeter. It is often that we see printers over extrude and under extrude here, and while it can be a clogged nozzle, can be some extra crap in the Bowden tube, it is often because an upgrade was done and the settings have either reverted or were never actually saved. As dumb as this sounds, if you don't save the settings when you change your steps per millimeter, and that I believe is an M500 or an M501, check your G-code, your printer will not take the work that you just did and will just continue to go down the path of wrong settings. So I'm glad that this one had a happy ending, but man, it's not easy to tell if this is the top or the bottom. Initially looking at this part, I would say that we're looking at the bottom of it. So that is a great distinction if you are dealing with top or bottom surface quality issues, to make sure that you include whether it is the top or the bottom. Because had I not had that information, it is very easy to assume that this is the bottom. And we have a pretty big issue with our Z offset. Circles aren't circling. Elegoo Neptune Max Cura 5.4, and it's been doing this for a while now. Printing temp is 200 and bed is 61. Okay, 61. Can anyone tell me why they aren't connecting on the first layer? After the raft, it's on its third layer. It even comes out and becomes okay. But I'm tired of this help. First off, don't print rafts. They're old school. There's not a lot of value to them in this current industry. And if we take a look at the 3 photos provided, it is very obvious to me that we are nowhere near close enough. Your Z offset is not there. And while they say they've leveled it so many times and they doubt that's the problem, it's not a leveling problem, it's an offset problem. With a textured build plate, you actually want more squish than you do on a non-textured build plate. So if you're too far away, your circles aren't going to connect all over, and you're going to end up with surfaces that look like this. I would look at having the printer get closer to the build plate. And with the Neptune 3, I'm not exactly certain how to do it. I know the easiest method is just to do it in the slicer, but you might also have the ability to do baby stepping. I don't have any experience with the Elegoo Neptune series of printers. We don't work with Elegoo, but we probably should. So if someone has a contact at Elegoo, hit me up, because it would be nice to take a look at some of these machines and better understand why some of these issues occur. I don't believe that it is a machine issue. I'm fairly certain it is a settings or Z offset problem, and more specifically, I'm fairly certain it's a Z offset problem. But it is good to have a wide breadth of printers so that we can help others that are going through these problems. I recognize that this kind of thing can be really challenging, and it certainly shows. I mean, we're cussing in the comments, which means it's been a bit. I'm not a huge fan of Cura. It could be a resolution thing in the slicer. I don't think that it is, but it could be. I find that Cura has a lot of extra features and options that the average person doesn't need, and when you are just starting off, it can take you down this rabbit hole of settings that don't matter. While yes, Cura can be good, and if you like it, use it, right? Use what you're most comfortable with. It is good to also open up and look at other slicers as well. In fact, I recently just looked at Orca Slicer for the first time. We'll card to that video so you guys can take a look. I enjoyed it. It's got some challenges, it's got some benefits, and I'm going to be using it more often here in the shop so I can kind of learn what it's like and do I want to switch over to one slicer? If you like having one slicer, might be something to look at. But if you're comfortable with Cura, the switch from a Cura to something like an Orca slicer is going to be very tough because their UI and UX, their user interface and user experience, are vastly different. But I do hope that getting that filament a little bit closer to the bed does help the problem. I believe that's the issue, and I hope that it helps. Is there a way to make things supported look cleaner? I'm just curious if it's possible to get cleaner prints that use support, or maybe an alternative method that gets me cleaner prints overall when normally you would use it. If it means anything, I use tree supports for this print to save some filament. I'm using an Ender 3 with golden PLA at 200C, and the nozzle is at 50. We've got the underside of a part that just doesn't look great. We can see some issues down there, and if we go back to the first photo, we can see this has a lot to do with Z contact distance. Traditionally, 3D printers have a pretty serious Z contact distance. Often on Enders, it is set to 2 layers. And if you're running 0.2 millimeter layers, that is a 0.4 millimeter Z gap, which is quite a bit. That means you have 2 layers of gap between your support material and the material sitting on top of it. If you decrease that Z distance, you will get cleaner prints, but be careful. The closer you go, the more of a chance that you will have that your support material will fuse directly to the print. If you are using tree support, you want to make sure that your branch distance is relatively small. In a piece like this, I would not be using tree support, and I would look at doing something like a snug support. With that being said, if you do want to use tree, make sure your branch distance is relatively small so you get lots of points that touch the part. And of course, because it is tree support, you don't need any interface layers. You just attach the support directly to the part. It might leave some zits on the piece itself, but my best guess here is even though they're using tree support, they're not having the correct settings for tree support, because if you do, you often get much better layers than this. However, something to also note, if this is a stock Ender 3, its print cooling fan And duct is woefully terrible for the printer and will not produce good parts. So if you aren't running aftermarket cooling solutions for your Ender 3, I might recommend it because a better cooling fan like a 5015 blower will certainly give you better quality overhangs, which potentially might be part of the problem that we're seeing here. With that being said, it can be tough to dial in support, especially on a printer with inadequate cooling solutions. That means you might be fighting a losing battle. And I don't like that because the option shouldn't be, oh, just buy a new cooler. And we can see that one of the commenters has the other option, which is an IDEX printer or a printer with dual nozzles, where you can do an interface material like PETG with a PLA print, where those two materials will not bond together, and you will get beautiful, perfect undersides of your 3D prints. Now, if you're running an Ender, it's likely not there to just go spend close to $1,000 to do that kind of thing. While it is a possibility that you could look at going to a 2-nozzle system, or even, I don't know, implementing like an Enraged Rabbit carrot feeder, which is a multi-material unit similar to Prusa's MMU and similar to the idea behind the Bamboo AMS, where you have a single nozzle with multi-material. You just really need to get your purge volumes correct, or you're gonna have some contamination, which is not going to work. I think all of those options are way above and beyond the scope of a basic problem fix, and it is better to look at tuning in those supports, whether it is tree or you move over to snug supports, that will result in a better quality print in the end. Ultimately though, your biggest factor in limiting your print quality is unfortunately going to be the printer itself. Without heavy upgrades, bone stock Ender 3s are only good for so much before they really become more of a problem than they're actually worth. This one comes from Patreon member Domingo, who had a bit of a problem. This is the untimely death of a Revo Obxidian. And that is a lot of carbon fiber nylon. This is always fun when you also get the security camera footage. You notice a problem there? There is no nozzle attached to that anymore. We can actually see the entire heater core of the Revo is off. So what happened? This is kind of a thing that you have to check with Revos. Because they're not a hot Titan solution, when they get cold, they can unscrew. Your normal nozzle, you tighten it up when it's hot. E3D says do not do that. With the Revo, you want to make sure that you do it when it's cold. So something to note for your Revos, and those of you that are running Revos, I love Revos, they're great, but this is a thing that we've seen happen more than once. You need to periodically make sure that your nozzle is actually tight, because if it is loosening itself, you might notice your first layer is a little bit closer than you expect for a little bit, but eventually it's going to loosen itself up enough to where it can actually collide with the part and snap. Now, this one snapped in a place that I haven't seen before. Normally, we'll see them snap right here at the heat break, but this actually snapped inside of the copper threads that go into the heat sink, right where it appears the steel tube ends and it goes to the copper itself. Domingo got lucky because he was able to extract that part. And we were joking, since it is copper, you can theoretically solder it. And I kind of want him to try it, because if you can extract it, you really don't run a bunch of a risk of trying it. I mean, the worst thing is you just break it again. But you could solder it, chase the threads, and then put it back in and see what happens. I don't know. We like to have fun in the Discord, and if you are looking to join our Discord, you can do so Patreon, PayPal, or YouTube channel members at the $10 tier or higher. Links, of course, are in that description down below. But this one hurt a little bit because, of course, Revo Obsidians are still a little difficult to get. They're pretty popular, and people want solutions for printing abrasive materials on their Revo systems. So it sucks. It's probably not repairable, but Domingo has the general idea that, hey, I can fix it even if I break it. So give it a shot. It'll be fun to see what happens. Really, the problem here is that's a lot of carbon fiber nylon and likely close to the same cost as the Revo itself. So bummer when it happens, but at least nothing else broke. The nice thing about Revos, when they do unscrew, is the nozzle takes the brunt of everything. And while, yes, if you had a heat break fail on a normal hot end, like this E3D V6, let's say the actual heat break failed, I can just replace the heat break and it's not all that expensive, but you lose the ability to single hand cold tighten something. Whereas with this, with a V6, you have to do it hot and it requires multiple hands to do it, all of which must be attached to tools. Because if you try to grab a hot end 280C, you are going to have the definition of a bad time. So the best solution here is to periodically check tightness of the Revo. It has happened a couple of times in our own Discord where the Revo nozzles have come loose. I have not personally had that happen, but we do often change the nozzles on our printers with Revos, so we're tightening them every single time we replace them. It happens more than you think for us, but if you're the kind of person that likes to fire and forget, you will need to periodically verify that your Revo is tight in the system itself. Sorry, Domingo. I know it's a tough one. I know it's an expensive mistake. Hopefully you can help others not make the same one. I am so unbelievably expletive deleted. We have a resin printer that's got a bit of the forbidden milkshake that fell into the printer itself. And while resin is toxic to humans, if you don't cure it and you remove it with alcohol, you might actually be able to save this printer. Pour alcohol on it. Obviously, go ahead and unplug it. Make sure that all the capacitors are drained. So unplug it, then try to turn it on. That should drain any capacitors that have any extra voltage in it. And then get a very soft bristled toothbrush and some alcohol and go ahead and pour the alcohol on it. Have a bucket where you can put the waste alcohol and try to clean off that raw resin. If you do go and cure the resin, chances are you're going to have some issues. It's not a very well-known thing for some reason, but electronics don't actually hate water. They hate the minerals that are in water. And as long as you properly dry electronics before you turn them back on, you don't run any risks. I love vintage audio, and it's something that you guys are going to get to see here on the channel soon, TM, where I take you guys along the journey of building a sound room and doing it with 3D printing. So if that's something you're excited for, make sure to leave a like and get subscribed. And oh yeah, for all you guys that are saying, Grant, you need new headphones, we're going to be doing a Hedamame build since they just released the V2. So stay tuned for that as well. Let me know your color choices in the comments because I've got some ideas and I'm really curious to know what you guys would think as well. But I have routinely run vintage electronics in the dishwasher. It is totally fine as long as you clean them off. You want to be careful not use any detergent in the dishwasher, obviously, just using it for the water pressure. But as long as you then rinse everything off with alcohol to get rid of a lot of the contaminants, you'll be fine. Be careful though, because alcohol that is below 90% often has water in it, which can contain contaminants. So if you're going to use alcohol to clean electronic boards, make sure that it is 90% or above, preferably as close to 100% as your wallet can afford. This is not a lost cause, and in fact is a great learning opportunity because your FEP can tear. If it does tear, you need to deal with it fast because those tears will cause leaks into your printer. But remember, if that toxic resin has not yet cured, it is a potentially savable thing. The problem is, if you have cured it and the printer is not turning on, you pretty much have to replace the board. But with how expensive the boards are, it is often a better deal to just buy a new printer, salvage parts out of this one that are still good potentially, and just have spares for that machine. But we can see here, as a professional electronics tech says, if it hasn't cured, you can clean it with alcohol and a soft bristle brush, then dry carefully with a soft microfiber cloth. Although they say mirror fiber, pretty sure they mean microfiber. And make sure you wear an ESD strap so you don't accidentally fry the card. I think it can be saved if you take those steps. I'm not a professional electronics tech, but hey, it's good to know that I know a thing or two about what I'm doing. And we can see down here, it might actually be saved. The printer was still able to turn on, so maybe it's not the end of the world, but this still can't be good. I don't even know how to begin fixing this apart from asking for a replacement motherboard from Elegoo support. This is unfortunately not Elegoo's fault. You would pretty much want to go ahead and just clean it off with some IPA, let it dry for a couple of days, and honestly, it'll probably be fine. But if it does go, kinda is what it is. Elegoo might be able to sell you one, but be warned because it's got the mark of the beast. Cheetu. It's going to be pretty expensive because Elegoo doesn't necessarily control the pricing of these boards 100%. Cheetu does. That's a bit of a problem. Anyways, guys, that is all I have for you on this 97th episode of PrintFix Friday. Make sure to leave a like and get subscribed if you haven't, but stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. You all probably have noticed the cat bed not being here. Victoria is not feeling great. We don't exactly know what's going on yet, but she's been throwing up a lot and her cat bed's in the wash. So it's been a solar panel this whole time because cats are solar powered. We're working on figuring out what's going on. It might take some time. We'll see. But yeah, that's why there's no cat. I can see her. She's in a different bed, but she made a mess in this one, so it had to go in the wash. Sorry. Anyways, outro. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video, and a massive thank you goes out to all of our channel supporters whose names are listed right next to me at the $5 tier and higher. Remember, if you want to support the efforts that we do here on the channel, you can do so by clicking those links in that description down below and joining for as little as $1 a month. And hey, at the $10 tier and higher, you get to come hang out in our private Discord server where we do a lot of awesome behind-the-scenes stuff. We'd love to have you there, and it's a lot of fun. Right below me will be the entire PrintFix Friday series, almost 100 episodes strong. We gotta do something special for 100, and then most likely 104, because that would mark 2 years. Let me know what you guys want to see. Or actually, that will be a video that the algorithm thinks you should click. I think you should click them both. I think you should leave a comment, which is where I will see you, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.